floor over to you.
Excellent, thank you. Kind of like, right. So, so that you make the most, you've obviously chosen to come here for a reason, and I really want you to make the most of it. So, to begin with, what I'd like you to do is to shut your eyes, and in your mind's eye is any thoughts and crap that's going on in your head that or your to-do list and so on and so forth, anything that happened this morning, any arguments you had, put them in that bag and zip it up, padlock it, whatever you need to do, and put it outside the door here. You can always take it, pick it up and take it with you afterwards, and hopefully it'll be a lot lighter as well. Now, while you've got your eyes shut, just to bring you into the room, I'd like to invite you to do a breathing exercise. So it's important to breathe in for, if you can breathe in for 8, hold it for 8, and out for 8. Now, the reason we do this is because from 6 onwards, the adrenal glands cannot make any more cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And so if you get stressed, this is a great thing to do, but I would encourage you to do it as many times in the day as you can, morning, noon and night, because it will really help to recalibrate the body. So you're breathing in for 8, holding, don't go blue in the face if you can't do 8, and it's a really slow out breath. And again, and out. And one more time, in and out. Excellent. You can open, right, well, you can keep them shut if you want to, but don't fall asleep. Fantastic. Well, I've deliberately not done a PowerPoint today because a couple of days ago I thought about it, and I'm busy meeting deadlines on writing and things, and I thought, that's really cool. Don't stress yourself out, Philippa, because it takes time to do. And particularly as this is such a sensitive subject, it's a huge subject, I really want to be able more to interact with you and talk to you as opposed to at you with a load of instructions and things like that. So I get a brownie point for taking the pressure off myself, because that's what it actually does. So I just want to give you a bit of background to me. So there's some familiar faces on the floor, but not all of you know my dark background, so I'll enlighten you to some of it. I now practice as, I call myself an enthusiologist. I'm a mentor facilitator. I don't like all the coaching lifestyle, but that's basically what I do. I have a passion for words and the connotations that it actually brings up. And so Enthusiologist seems to embrace my way of life and what I do for other people. So I'm not a conformist, as you'll learn over time. Really, just a little bit of backstory is when I was at school, my parents or my grandparents paid a fortune for a private education, which didn't come to anything at all. I managed to fail English language 6 times with 3 different boards, and they told me I was illiterate. I wanted to be a vet and managed to fail physics, chemistry and biology, so there was absolutely no hope for me. And the irony is that now I write and work in the sciences. So don't ever believe what somebody else tells you, because it's a load of bollocks, basically. And you'll find that balls feature quite strongly in my work and the theme that I actually carry on. So moving on from that, I did the secretarial course because there was nothing else that I could do, and thank goodness I did, because it opened many doors for me. But the one thing that really changed my life was around the age of 31, which is a couple of years ago, was when I'm with my children. My son was about 2 and my daughter was only about 6 months. And I really wanted to find out and understand my children's growth and what I could do to actually help them be the best version of themselves. And the baby books were really boring and didn't tell you much. And I was living in England, by the way, at this time. And I discovered that the Open University had a module on child development. So I took that, and it was absolutely fascinating. And so it was definitely me, because it was really concentrated, because I'm an all or nothing type person. It was from February through to October time, 6 modules, and then an exam, and then you had this time off in between. So I managed to get that first one, which for someone who'd failed in English was pretty damn good. So I just carried on. And so the next year I did another one in child development, which gave me an advanced certificate in child development, which opened many doors, and that gave me my first certificate in life. Which was also, but the thing was, it really interested me, and it was pertinent. And I loved it so much, and I managed to fit it in with family and things like that, that my son then went to school, and the next module was about education. So I took that, and I worked as a classroom assistant, just helping out, volunteering. And I got the bug, and I just carried on, basically. And I realised at this point that I was halfway through getting a degree. If you told me at the beginning that I was going to get a degree or aiming for one, I would have run a mile. But because I'd done it in increments and it had filtrated in my life, it just happened that way. Except when I got to my 5th year, which was social psychology, and I did all the papers, got to the exam, and all my brain cells went to sleep. I couldn't remember a bloody thing. So I failed that year. And so there was 1 more year to go, and I was determined not to go on after that, because it was really hard work. And consider this was 27 years ago. It was the Open University advised me about a technique called visualization. Is everybody familiar with that? Yep, cool. Which back then was kind of out there. And so every morning I took the dog for a walk, and I visualized myself receiving my degree, and I got it. I had to work damn hard. Choking up now, but I had post-it notes and lots of other strategies, and I worked my bits off, and I got it, and I was so proud. But the thing that drove me was that because of my children, and that really kind of started stuff off. So I've got a background, I got an honours degree in psychology, and that's the foundation that I started the work that I'm actually doing now, but it has morphed over the years, because I've done a lot of study in quantum physics and metaphysics, neurology, neuroplasticity, all sorts of things. And so now I work basically with energy, because everything in life is energy. We are balls of energy, and the environment outside us affects the environment inside us. And our senses are like antennae. The energy outside us is information, and our senses pick it up and literally help us make sense of it. It changes the energetic state of our body, and that energy goes up through the nervous system to the brain, and then the pituitary gland comes in and says, it's the conductor, it's instructions, gives out instructions as to what hormones and things to do, tells the organs what to do, and so on and so forth. So whatever is going on outside your life affects you inside, and vice versa. So keep that concept in mind, because it's really, really important. And saying that, with all the information that we have, it's like an iceberg. We actually only use 5% of the information and what I call intelligence that's in this. The rest of it's like the iceberg is underneath. It's the subconscious that. So if you keep that in mind, in this day and age particularly, we are overloaded with information and noise and things. And I really, really noticed this in February last year. I had the privilege of going to Antarctica to celebrate my great-great-great-grandfather's discovery of the Ross Sea. And it was so peaceful. You could smell the purity in the air. It was just another world completely. So when I arrived back in Christchurch and got on the coach, and it was like, whoa! And it took me 2 months to really recalibrate myself, because of the just information, the billboards, the cars. You really notice how much disruption there is in the world. And for me, the big thing is that we have become disconnected from ourselves because of all the noise that's happening, and we push it down and push it down, trying to make sense of it all the time. So that's just basically a little bit of background to the way that we work to help you understand stress, depression and anxiety. So how many of you here have actually suffered stress? Cool. Anxiety? Depression? Good. I love the honest answers because we all do. The thing is that mental health, we all have mental health issues. The way that it's conveyed to us as if it's, there's a huge stigma around it. It's not a bad thing. The thing we need to be concerned in is the actual level of it. So our energy is depleted basically, and the levels go up of the stress and things because our body literally cannot manage what's going on. So kudos to you for putting your hands up and acknowledging, because that's a huge, huge part of it. The more awareness you have, the easier it is to manage it. So stress is really when a situation, like, I couldn't find this place, so I was getting a bit, fortunately I left half an hour early sort of thing. The police didn't know where it was, which was really helpful. Anyway, I was doing my stressy pants thing. Okay, cool. And so it's basically if your stress happens because you need to step up, either because something's frightening you or you need to step up to be able to put all of yourself forward, and the cortisol fires around the body. What happens, the body can hold on to this for 20 plus years and it gives you adrenal fatigue and results in things like chronic fatigue syndrome and all sorts of things like that. Anxiety is more the state where you anticipate the what if, what happens down it, and you start playing things in your mind of worst case scenario. Depression is really, the essence of that is all the bad shit, you're pushing it down, and so your depression and life drags you down, your energy is really, really low, and it continues to do it over and over and over again until such time as you can't manage it. And the overwhelm is the fact that the emotions, which is basically energy in motion, have reached a point and you're on an all-time low, and it feels absolutely hopeless, and it can be a really dark place at that extreme level. So really part of what I do is to help people recognise things along the way and have tools to manage it. So it's not actually doesn't get out of control. And in that awareness, I'm a stickler for anagrams, because that's what helped me get through my 6th year at psychology. It's what I call the fat syndrome, which is your feelings, actions and thoughts, because they actually weigh you down, and physically you get fatter, and that is another reason why people can't get on the diet and things. They have problems with it. It's because of the emotions are actually stuck in the body. That's my belief. It's not conclusive to everybody, so I'll just put that out there. So the awareness is a huge thing, and your body is a messenger. So it's hard to tune into it with all this extra noise. So this is why quiet and space is really, really important for you. Your attitude and relationship to yourself is really, really important, and at work to keep addressing why your vision is so important to you. Like when I started my degree, that was the thing that actually was the underlying thing, and now it's about my long-term vision is to actually get these life skills into school, because I think it's important that we understand and find that connection to ourselves, because it helps put everything else into proportion, and we can make our own decisions on what rules and regulations are important to us and say bollocks to the rest of it, basically, because that's the pressure that we have to do. We're doing stuff for other people all the time. Notice in your workplace as well, when I said earlier about an environment, this is a lovely open workspace. I've worked in an open workspace before where there is so much noise and chatter and people shouting across the room, and so put earphones in, because I like quiet to work. Just be aware of the environment that actually makes you feel good. Colour is a really important thing, and creating a space that you feel comfortable in is important. Sometimes we've got stuff all over the desk and things, tidied up. I mean, some of the things that I've seen on how they actually work is quite beyond me. But anyway, it's each to their own. It's not for me to say what's right and wrong, but you get so busy, you come in and work and just do stuff and don't notice everything that's accumulated behind you. My partner said yesterday, because I was asking him about curiosity, and I said, so what are you curious about? And he said, how much crap accumulates in the garage? And I said, it's just like life, you know, you just don't notice it. You put more and more and more and more stuff in. So broaden your awareness of what is happening around you and inside you, and that will really, really help you. Just a thought is, I noticed that when we go to our grave, because that's where it's inevitable for all of us, there's a great big sign there that, and people say, rest in peace. And it seems that's the only time that we're allowed to rest in peace. And so I just invite you to think about resting in life and taking time out to do that, because there's no awards. And how many tombstones do you actually know that have got good bitch, worked herself to the bone sort of thing, you know? It's not an accolade sort of thing. When I go back to the vision, it's really looking at where your heart is, what is important to you in your life, and in it, note the self-talk. This is going back to the facts, the feelings, actions and thoughts. What's the talk that goes on in your head? How are you actually treating yourself? What kind of relationship do you have with yourself? Because that's some big clues about what isn't important. And in that, you will recognize where you spend your energy. And if you think of it like a bank, like an energy bank, you know, where you, what do you put in that actually adds to it, that gives credit to you, and how are you actually draining it, and where is the debit sort of thing. And another thing that's really important is, what are you ignoring? What's stagnating sort of thing? Because as I say, I have this fascination with the ocean, and Dr. Emoto, I don't know if anybody's come across it, he did a study of water and the crystals and how words and music and things affect it. And he had 3 jars. One had love, one had hate, and the other one was ignored. And it was the jar that was ignored that went stagnant, and there was no crystal formations in it whatsoever. So don't ignore those messages that you get in your head that you want to, and you're battling against what other people think you should or shouldn't do, because it's really important that you acknowledge it. Yeah, so it's actually managing your wobbles. The most important thing really is for you to create that headspace and create the space to stop and think. I can leave you with some parting tips on the ways to actually do this, and I will put them on an email to you as well, so that you can pick them up. The first one is the breathing that we did at the beginning. We all do it every day, but conscious breathing to the belly, people don't, because we just shallowly go through life just like everything else without actually noticing it. So make that a part of your day. I always wake up and go to bed with a smile on my face. That's why I've got so many character lines. That's what I say anyway. Because if you smile on the outside, even if you feel like poo, actually after 3 minutes or so, it changes it gets the endorphins going, and it changes the state inside, and you get an inner smile as well, and it helps you really embrace the day in a different way. Be kind to yourself, your self-talk. Think best case scenario as well, as opposed to the worst case when you get to, when things are anxious. Laughter is the best medicine. And for me, one of the things I have in my program is what I call the F factors. And one is fun. We're far too blooming serious in life, and we need some serious fun to help us through. And the other one is, excuse my language, is put stuff that doesn't matter to you in the fuck it bucket. Because, don't let it take up the space in your life and in your head, because it will just give you the biggest wobble ever. I'm just going to finish off now. I'm running a couple of workshops, one at the end of July and one at the end of August, to really, really expand on this and help you get a sense of self, your value, what's important to you, get in touch with what energizes you, and how to create that particular headspace. It's limited to only 12 people, because any more than that I can't give my full attention to, basically. And I do one-on-one mentoring and groups at work and home. And I just want to share a testimonial that I received today, actually from a 40-year-old man who actually took his life, and fortunately came out the other side. And he said, I always thought I'd never come through, but I did with your help, therapy, and your beautiful insights, saying you are never alone, your gut is always right, and your higher self always brings you to where you belong. Things, situations, life, and sometimes partners bring you down to where you would never have thought possible. With the right belief in yourself, with the right guidance, you can change that. I was very fortunate that I had an angel, a mentor, and someone who believed in me, and that, Philippa, was you. Thank you. I did have a question that was on the Facebook page, is how best to help someone that you think might be suffering. Listen, there's a reason we've got 2 of these, and shut up. It's actually hearing, because the reason people don't come forward is because they think it's silly, it's small, it's insignificant, and it's to make them feel comfortable in that space. It's really, really important. Yeah, be the friend. Sometimes you can bring elements of your own thoughts, but don't do the right and wrong thing, because in my work I facilitate people to make their own choices. Nothing is right or wrong as long as you make a decision, because it could be the wrong decision, what turns out to be, but there's always a lesson in that. And trust me, I've fucked up big time in my life, and come through the other side. So has anybody got any questions?
I'm really quite aware of my own energy, and I know when I'm stressed, or
Cool.
I know when I'm anxious, and I know what I do to help that sometimes. Like I'll go have a shower or put myself in a quiet room and read a book or something. But like what other tools can I do? Like I know when I'm getting stressed, but how do I stop getting stressed?
So do you know what causes it?
Oh, I just probably got too much things on.
Okay, so probably, and then you go on. So what you've done is you haven't.
Doing all the things.
But then,
on myself.
yeah, but that's what we do. The more we do as well, and the workplace, because we like doing, we put things on. There becomes an expectation of the level of work that we can do, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger because we have that sense of pride that we don't want to let ourselves or other people down. So what I'd say to you is to look at what are you doing, and look after yourself, care for yourself, because there's only a certain amount of time that you can carry on doing so much before you wobble and fall over and that stress really takes over for you.
So basically don't put so much stuff on myself.
Well, no, it's actually prioritising it, and within my programme, it's with the energy centre, as I call it, it's actually making sure you've got a bit of everything in your life, because we tend to leave things out, and that's why we get the wobbles. Prioritise it, look after yourself and be realistic. And that's the pot calling the kettle black, because I'm always a last minute person. I work better with a bit of pressure, but I always underestimate how long something's going to take.
Philippa, at work, how can you identify like a lot of those problems that like Jessie's describing, we're not going to share with our colleagues because it can be embarrassing or whatever. But how would you identify that one of your colleagues might be going through some of these issues?
It's the lack of energy that they bring. It's a change. You will see a change in them. They'll be quieter, and you can see the expression on their face is a really big one. It's just acknowledging that, and just keeping an eye on people for the changes in behaviour, because behaviour, like naughty children, and we all behave in a way that actually wants us to make notice. So it can be, we could be quieter or we could be louder. So it really just be aware of it. Yep. Yeah. Does that help?
And how would you suggest approaching a colleague if you think that they suspect that they might be feeling this way, but it might be someone who you don't have a close relationship with, but it's a sensitive topic?
Well, it's about monitoring it for yourself and where their comfort zone is. It's just, you could just say, I notice you've been quiet lately, if you ever need an ear or something, I'm there, and just leave it at that. Sometimes people come forward, take care of them, notice the things that do, maybe even put some flowers on their desk, or it's those little acts of kindness that really make the difference. We don't realise the difference that we are making. I'll tell you another story. I was contacted about 3 years ago from an old school friend from 40 years ago, so it's that time we hadn't seen each other, and she'd left, and they gave me a pendant that just said my name in 1973. And when she found me on Facebook, we had this massive Skype session, and she said that there was so much stuff going on in her home life. Her parents, she was getting beaten and all kinds of things. And she said if it wasn't for me, she would have committed suicide. And it's like, whoa, I had no idea. Yeah. So it's acts of kindness are really, you know, it could be the smile, the look in the eye, very small, subtle things, rather than, because we tend to be blinded and just get on with our own stuff. And it's really important to take that time out and sit down and have a coffee. We're in a society that's chop, busy all the time, and it's like, yeah, take away coffee here, there and everywhere. Stop for 10 minutes and talk to somebody. Good old-fashioned communication, you can't beat it. Yeah. Hugs, I love hugs. Some people don't, yeah. Yeah. David does, I know. Excellent. Oh, that wasn't too bad. I managed to squidge it all in. And on time-ish.
Now you can have a bottle of wine.
Oh, thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. I'll give you a hug. Thank you so much
My reward.
for coming and volunteering your time.
It's a big subject
It
to
is a big
cover.
subject to squish in, and I think it is just about taking the time. And I think in work especially, we come in and we spend so much time together, but do we ever really sit down to find out those little quirks?
Head down and bum up, and we don't notice stuff. Yeah.
And it is important. So yeah, let's all make an effort to put a bit more effort in.
And that's probably, Philippa, from an organisational point of view, creating those opportunities for the staff to actually to take a bit of time out in that as well, I think.
Absolutely. And the other thing, which I forgot from my notes, is really recognising people's strengths and styles and making sure, because that's where the vision is really important, so that you're all working off the same page and everybody knows each other's strengths and things. Because I remember working once with some woman who was right on the outside, and there was a lot of back chat and backstabbing going on because she wasn't sort of a part of it. But what they didn't recognise was what she brought to it in the end, because she stood back and took an overall picture. So there's value in everybody from everybody's point of view. You don't have to agree with somebody, but you don't have to have an argument. It's all about acknowledging. That's the important thing. Yeah.
Yeah, as an organisation, we took some time out sort of a couple of weeks ago as an organisation, and I think that was very, very beneficial for our mental health as an organisation.
Do fun stuff. You know, don't always, with professional development and things like that, don't always make it work orientated. Go play.